Hi everyone, welcome to eShe TV. I'm Aekta Kapoor, and today I'm going to be talking to Suparnaa Chadda about finding and focusing on the good in the world. Hi Suparna, nice to have you on eShe TV.
Thank you so much for having me, Ekta. It's always such a pleasure to interact with you. Thank you.
So for our viewers, Suparna and I go back a long way, and she's a woman with a lot of energy and drive, and very inspirational in with her activism and her passion. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her before we proceed. Suparna has almost 20 years of experience in television, radio, print, events, and new media. She is the founder of the Simply Suparna Media Network. She's an author and a gender equity activist. She's also the curator of the Sabera Awards. Now, these are really interesting. It's a one of a kind annual social impacts award show and a summit which highlights sustainable development, and it rewards corporates and individuals who are doing good. And from what I've been observing in the past few years, this is the third year that the Sabera Awards are being held, and it just gets bigger and better. So thanks, Suparna, for being with us today. And I'm really keen to know more about the Sabera Awards. It started as on a much smaller scale, and this year I believe it's just going to go like through the roof. It's really doing pretty well. So tell me about Sabera Awards and what triggered you to launch it, and how has it been going so far?
Ekta, first of all, I must compliment you on how you keep innovating yourself. I think you are also one hell of an inspiration for all the women out there. I keep following you on social media handles and the kind of content that you get, both in the magazine and now digitally also. I think it's quite different. It's real. It's real women, real challenges. And I have been a part of eShe earlier as well with the articles
Yes.
that published, and the kind of feedback that I have got from there, some phenomenal women reaching out to me, pouring their hearts out. So I'm very excited and I'm very honored for you to have invited me over for this interaction.
Thank
um,
you.
I think the first time, if you remember, we met at the Radio City studios. And at that point in time, you were with an editor with the other magazine.
Hmm.
And I was hosting a show called Boss Gone Hair, wherein, there was interaction with corporate honchos, getting to know them as an individual as opposed to a persona or a corporate, entity. Well, it's through one of those interactions that I had with the CEO of HelpAge, Matthew Cherian, who continues to be the CEO of HelpAge even today. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the time was 2005. There was this huge earthquake which had hit the Kashmir Valley, and the
Yes.
devastation was immense on both sides of the border, as in Pakistan as well as in India. And when I had interviewed Matthew, he had said that, Suparna, there is complete apathy of the media as far as the plight of individuals is concerned. And that kind of something triggered something inside me. And even though I had no exposure into how a documentary film is made, it's almost like कि जब passion होता है, when you have that intent within you, something or the other, the universe literally conspires. I've always believed in that. The documentary, of course, got screened across the country. It also got screened in Kashmir, but I was very naive at that point in time. Really, I still sometimes feel I'm more passionate and I really don't use my head at all. I just jump into situations and then realize. And the reason why I'm saying this is because when I was in Kashmir and when the film was shown there at the Sher-e Kashmir Center, I was actually told by fellow documentary filmmakers who are very seasoned, saying that you're very brave to show a film of Kashmir in the city of Srinagar.
Mm.
And anybody who does anything with Kashmir or about Kashmir is always viewed with skepticism as to what the ulterior motive is. And it became increasingly evident how there is always something else to talk about in the mainstream media, which is more sensationalized, which actually caters to the lowest common denominator of human beings, literally bordering on voyeurism. And you'd agree with me, right? When we have been at the helm of affairs with large media houses, we realize that there's this huge fight of being of survival, literally, because they're always cash strapped, especially news channels, and they have to remain relevant. And in doing so, when they go to marketing heads of brands, the brands say, show us what you've got in terms of numbers and reach, etc. And the very infamous word now, TRP. And then the channels resort to all kind of tactics to be able to grab eyeballs and to be able to show that we have a lot of people who are watching us. And in the whole process, what happens is actual content which should be out there takes a hit. And it's like a two-pronged hit that it takes, because at one end, it's not getting the exposure that it gets. People who are doing phenomenal work, real life heroes, never seem to find center stage. No inspiration is there, not even a pat on the back, literally speaking. And the second thing is that it's not just one channel which is doing it, or one media house which is doing it. It is actually all of them to some degree or the other, some more, some less, in a means to survive. And what is happening is that in the process, it's creating an extremely negative narrative for the country.
Yes.
Everywhere we see that there is loot, there is rape, Delhi's, suddenly become the rape capital. I'm not saying wrong isn't happening. What I am saying is, because you're focusing only on that, the world over, the message is going that India is a is a country of thieves, of criminals. There's only wrong things and wrongdoings which are happening here. Women are not safe on the roads. Again, I'm saying it's not that it's not happening. It's just that every corner of the world is struggling with similar issues, Yes. But if you're just going to be focusing on a particular issue, one media channel after the other, 24/7 on a daily basis, it is bound to create a very, very negative narrative for the country. So that was the reason which played out repeatedly in my head, which ultimately led to the creation of a platform called Sabera. Sabera is really an acronym. It stands for Social and Business Enterprise Responsible Awards and Summit.
So what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, and not just in your role as media. Now in Sabera, you're also going to be doing this. You're rewarding good to corporate houses who are doing good. So what's your process for that? How are you going to select these people?
So the idea is very simple. And when we say we recognize good, it cuts across everything, whether you're an individual, whether you're an enterprise, or whether you're a not-for-profit. So we recognize your efforts in your contribution towards the development of the country. I do have a robust jury who is like a part of Sabera. So every year we constitute a jury of very senior professionals. They are CEOs and MDs of their particular organizations, or leading not-for-profits, or on-ground activists. So it's a diverse perspective that the jury brings on. In fact, there is an incentive for smaller organizations or individuals, but there is no fee associated with it. We do levy a fee only to the large corporate houses, and it's extremely subsidized for smaller companies and completely waived off for individuals and smaller entities that are doing good work out there. Again, the intent is really to highlight the work which is happening, acknowledge them through a public display of certification or a trophy that gives them an impetus. And also through the summit which precedes, it's more like highlighting some maybe case studies which can be replicated across the country. So
you've also featured some very worthy women on this platform, and even young girls.
Yes, Aekta. In fact, in the first year itself, we recognized Chaya Sharma. Chaya Sharma Of course, now everybody knows she was the erstwhile DCP Southwest Delhi who cracked the Nirbhaya case. Of course, Delhi crime came in 7 months after the acknowledgement of Chaya on Sabera's first edition. So the idea essentially is that whoever you may be a government official, you may be an IPS officer, as long as you're true and committed and doing something good, we would want to acknowledge you irrespective. And yes, young girls as well. In the first year, I had this 16-year-old girl, Shalini Sharma. She comes from a small village. Her father is a Mali in her own school, and full of beans. And she anchored the show. And so I guess actions speak much louder than words. And last year we had two young, bright girls. One of them is a co-founder for Voice of Slum in Sector 44, Noida. She was one of the anchors, and the other anchor was Jayashri Patil. She is from Kamathipura district in Mumbai, daughters of sex workers. And she also, after her education, was volunteering in a not-for-profit, and now she's got a scholarship and she's studying further. And this year, Sabera will be anchored by another young girl. She's a 15-year-old girl. Her name is Payal. Her mother is a household help. And she herself, Payal, dreams to be a pilot one day. Yeah, this is a very, very proud moment for me every time when I see the kind of stories that are getting highlighted through the platform.
Yeah, and the good thing is that you're actually walking your own talk. So you're highlighting the good, and you're also yourself being a platform for bringing out people, the voiceless, actually giving a voice to the voiceless. So tell me, as people who are consuming media, we're not just content creators, but we're also consuming media, and we're getting impacted with all this negative news, day after day, violence and rapes and divisions and polarization. And there's a whole lot of hate going around on all sides. You do follow a spiritual practice, and how do you think we can, as news consumers, how do we learn to absorb the good and kind of not get so carried away with the bad? What has worked for you in this regard?
Yeah, I'd love to share with you what has worked with me, but an interesting observation that one of my team members, Rucha, had made to me after her first year's association with Sabera. And she said, what I think for you, Sabera is your ikigai. And I had no clue. I haven't read the book, but as I figured out, ikigai is about the fact that you're making money with what you're good at, and what is for the larger good as well. So all three things are in alignment. So yes, so Sabera, in a very in one statement, is my ikigai, I guess. Yeah. So I guess the fact that these alignments have happened is because of my spiritual practice. I have been, on the spiritual journey for, again, as much as I've been on my media journey since 2000. And one tends to get onto the spiritual journey, of course, when things are not going right. So, you start to question things. And it's not like when you're on a spiritual journey that things suddenly become okay. It's just that you have the wherewithal to handle whatever is happening, or maybe you have the wisdom to see it through and not be broken by it, or not be extremely shaken by it. So with spirituality also, I have been flirting with spirituality for a very, very long time, in the sense that अच्छा आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग कर लेते हैं, सदगुरु का 1 हफ्ते का कोर्स कर लेते हैं, ओशो आश्रम में रह जाते हैं, विपासना कर लेते हैं, दलाई लामा के साथ 2 वीकेंड्स बिता लेते हैं. So I've been there, done that, everything. I wanted to try. But it's like, what are you committed to? It's like in a relationship, if you're just going to be flirting from one man to the other, there is not going to be a long-term commitment. Nothing is fruitful is going to come out of it, from that perspective, now for the past 10 years, I have been in contact with my living spiritual mentor. And he has oriented me, uh, uh, you know, to this innate perspective that I had inside me to work for the feminine energy. And without even knowing why I'm doing it, literally, it's like I have become a devout Shakti follower. So for me, everything is energy. It is Shakti. In Hindi, we say Shakti. I feel everything in my life is getting aligned with that spiritual practice that I'm doing, whether it is Woman Endangered, which is my not for profit, where I do menstrual hygiene workshops in institutions as well as in urban slums, or Sabera for that matter, in terms of recognizing the larger good. So for me, it is like what I can do constructively to add value to the world that I inhabit, I'm going to do, but I'm not going to let external stimuli always be bombarded at me and affect me both emotionally and spiritually. So for me, I'm literally in a cocoon. I say I live under a rock, but it helps me manage my energies in a channelized and a focused way. Yeah, so that's helped me. Of
Yeah.
course, meditation is a part of it. Discipline is a part of it. Very, very important part is discipline in terms of your food habits, in terms of your sleeping patterns, in terms of specific time periods when you sit down for your meditation, or specific time periods of when you read your scriptures. And by reading scriptures, it's not a religious point of view, but it is more, the more I'm delving into ancient Indian wisdom, the more is dawning on me that we have such treasure troves with us. We just need the key to the lock. And if we can put the right key to the right lock, there is so much that comes out of it. In fact, through the lockdown period, what I did was that I also took a course from Harvard X. I think it's Harvard's online digital learning is Harvard X, on understanding Hinduism through its scriptures. And I used that to my benefit in the menstrual hygiene workshops that I conduct, because I have been doing this, of course, physically going to institutions and slums, etc. But because of the lockdown, I've picked from these anecdotes and created a virtual workshop. Of course, we talk about sustainable menstrual products and what the whole cycle is all about. And it gives me a window of opportunity to address the gender divide. So, yeah, so it has been a learning, and anything that we do, my spiritual learning is that any outwardly seemingly good thing one is doing for the other is not necessarily for the other. It is actually for your own emancipation.
Right. Actually, you're yourself, you've been a single mother, you've had lots of your own ups and downs. You've had a very interesting journey, and you worked with all actually segments of society. So, what is your last final message that you would like to hand over to the next generation from your own life experiences?
My very basic thing is that if your intent is correct, and by correct also, I think correct is not the right word. It's more from a perspective of righteous or from a higher good. Everything else falls into place, you know. And as a parent, you also know we are like a role model 24/7 for our kids. When I see my daughter sometimes talk, I feel like, this is me talking to myself. And I feel I should have been maybe a little more careful of my own anxious or anxiety and all, which she also projects. While I have been a very conscientious mother, but inadvertently kids tend to pick up a lot of your non-verbal communication also. So as parents, we have to be very, very careful with what we are saying, how we are conducting our lives. And it's not an easy task, like for us. So the easier thing is for us to be righteous, for us to be doing the right thing, and it is not coming as a forced on thing because of the kids, but because that's the right thing to do.
Great. So we're going to focus on the good in the world, and we're going to watch you go places with Sabera, and also reward people who are doing good in the world, reward corporations and individuals. And I think it's a wonderful platform. I think it's a great initiative that you've taken, because we do need to focus on the good. We need to reward people not just for having incredible profits, but also for what they have done in the world and in society, and have they really managed to create a value in the place where they work? Have they added to society? So
These are not exclusive things in terms of doing good and earning a profit. It
absolutely,
doesn't see it initially may seem that we are putting in a little extra money to be an organization that is sustainable, etc. But believe you me, the profits automatically many-fold rise when there is the intent of the company, the governance, the ethics, and the policies of the companies are such that it takes into account all stakeholder engagement, etc. It automatically kind of manifests into higher profits. Initially, ऐसे लगता है कि हमको ज़्यादा invest करना पड़ेगा, but in the long run, if you see,
yeah,
even in terms of human psychology, people like to associate themselves, both employees as well as your customers, like to associate with a company which
yeah,
is sustainable, which is environmentally conscious, which is high on governance, ethics, and practices. So it
yeah.
does make sense to do the right thing.
And research has actually proved this, what you
Yeah,
just said. There has been research that proves that companies that invest in the communities around them, they also do better. And so what you're saying is it's a scientific thing. And I think this year you've had some big companies come on board, very big profit-making companies,
yeah,
who are also doing good. So
yeah,
that just proves the
yeah,
point.
yeah,
So all the best for this edition, and thanks to all our viewers for being here. And I hope you're going to look out now for the good in the world and reward it, focus on it, so that will also help to enhance it. So thanks
yeah.
everybody, and we'll see you next week on eShe TV. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.